Hi, Charles. How are you doing? This is the show.
The show this week. All right. Yeah. I'm doing fine, Lee. What are we getting into today here?
We're gonna do an album by someone named Gary Glitter. The album is called Glitter.
Well, okay. Me and Lee talked about this off air. I want to preface this review, folks. Now, first of all, it was the last set of reviews we did. I mentioned this as kind of like a joke, but yet I still kind of wanted to do it at the same time. And Lee hit me up and said, I'll do it, fuck it. We're not going to get into this man's life at all. We're going back to 1972, correct, Lee? Like, we're hearing it for the first time. We're just strictly looking at the music, nothing more. There's enough information out there for folks to look that up. We don't stand for that stuff. We got nothing to do with that. Not into it. It was deplorable. That's about all we got to say. But we are looking at the music and the music alone. Because whether people like it or not, maybe a bad part of it might be, there's always two sides of the coin of life, to ask Ace Frehley. And there's bad and there's good. And Gary Glitter, I hear a lot of influence on a lot of different genres of music that came after it, to include British punk, a genre I like a lot, Britpop, and allegedly even some hair metal. Could be. I can hear it for sure. But we're just doing the music. Go ahead and look all that stuff up on your own. We're not advocating for anything, just to review music. Right, Lee?
Yeah. In fact, the only song that I knew was from way, way back, and I knew it. And then I later heard that he had done a couple other songs that other people did that I liked. Hadn't heard his versions. But, yeah, I wanted to hear a whole album because there's only one song that I knew, and it would be like if you went to visit a big public place and you were only allowed to go to maybe the registration office. You know, you weren't given the full tour. And so this song was kind of like a mailbox in the registration room compared to the whole house. So I wanted to hear the whole house.
I'm assuming it's on this record too.
Yes.
Yeah. His most famous song to the American audience would be off this album, I would say. And it's ironically, it's ironic. We'll get into it when we do that.
Yeah.
The reviews of it, for sure. And that's the same way with me. I knew nothing about this guy for years and years and years and years. But I remember about probably late 80s, maybe early part of the 90s, you would hear the same song you're talking about, like at every football game, every basketball game, every sporting event. I think even now they play it, but it's actually a cover. It's not really his version. That was if you do hear it. But it's been downplayed a lot. But back in the day, they played this song all the time. I probably went 2 or 3 years, had no clue who it was. Just remember the hook.
Yeah.
And I mean, this guy's name wasn't mud as far as like up to like 96, because when the Who toured Quadrophenia, looked this up today, he was actually part of that tour.
Cool.
So he played the Godfather, I guess, in that stage production. And then things went downhill and they got rid of him.
Yeah.
I think most people in America would know this one song for sure. And they wouldn't know probably the rest. I didn't even heard the original, if we want to call it that. But I'm definitely aware of that other one. And I guess from what I've read, he didn't do as well on the west side of the pond, like I like to call it, in the States. He was pretty much an English phenomenon, probably similar to Slade.
Yeah.
Another,
I mean, people knew of him.
Yeah,
but it was like he was the book on the bookshelf next to the book you usually would read.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Americans could tolerate David Bowie and that glam days and all that more. Or I really doubt that T-Rex made a big deal in the States the way they did in England. They might have been a little bigger than this.
If you were to think that MTV had anything to do with that, then yeah, because back in the day, I never heard any T-Rex.
Right. So I think the English glam movement as a whole didn't really hit huge in the States to begin with. But
yeah.
I would liken this guy at the time to some stuff that Slade did and some other groups. So
all right,
that's my take on it. I have no clue who plays on this fucking album. I do know Mike Leander produced it. He arranged She's Leaving Home for the Beatles. Did you know that?
Huh?
He arranged She's Leaving Home for the Beatles.
Oh, okay. Didn't he also have something to do with some of the Sweets songs? I don't know.
Yeah, he'd been around. He did quite a few things.
Yeah.
I guess at this point he was producing. And that's all I got on it, man. Let's get into it. Let's see what the hell, what this is all about.
Do you want me to start or you start?
You can start.
Okay. Rock and Roll Part 1. Okay. This is okay. It's like an underground party with a group that doesn't have a recording contract trying to imitate Shanana, but being good anyway. It's nothing special, but not bad. What do you think?
This one was co-written by Glitter and the producer, Mike Leander. And you get that iconic drum intro. And it's actually pretty odd to hear it with actual lyrics. This would be the lesser-known part of the song.
Yeah.
The guitar is pretty decent on this. Sounds a bit like a buzzsaw. Having a clue on who's playing on it. Apparently this did well on the charts in England. I actually kind of see why part 2, which we will get to, did a bit better and stayed around quite a longer than this one. This is a decent track here, but it does get a bit repetitive. It's not the worst thing I've heard, but far from the best.
Okay. What do you think of Baby Please Don't Go?
This song seems to be a big go-to for English acts. They seem to love to cover this. Well, plus the Amboy Dukes, but I digress. This one seems to have a lot of nods to the version by them. Has a lot of similarities to that version, specifically in the guitar. I'm really into the sounds of the drums on this version here. It seems that this is produced in a way to almost hide something. It does seem more style over substance. It's a decent track, though I prefer AC/DC's cover still over this, but I do like some of the sounds on it. It just seems a little bit hollow.
Yeah. I had put this as interesting. It's sort of like Snakefinger, but better. Still, it needs something to fill it a bit more. You know?
Yeah.
Kind of like hollow. Yeah, kind of like you eat a piece of cake, and after you bite into the cake, it's completely hollow. You know? It's like, huh?
Yeah.
What's that? And they go, it's a balloon cake. And you say, what's a balloon cake? They say we expand the crust and put nothing in it except air. You know, but for a balloon cake, it's actually interesting. Okay. Yeah. Now for The Wanderer. Okay. I like this about as good as the original. I never thought that was possible. Very right on. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm on the same bandwagon there. We get a cover of the Dion song here.
Yeah.
And while they do a nice recreation of this, it reeks of something you'd hear at a theme park by one of their shows that they have, and a Six Flags park at that.
Huh.
Okay, maybe a bit harsh, man. Maybe a Universal park. Yeah, it's got good sax solo on it. it's a passable cover, but again, in that theme park band review show style. So if you're into that, then this is your jam. To me, a good cover enhances the original version and can be appreciated on its own merit. And this was almost a carbon copy. So I would think, personally, you're better off with the original, in my estimation.
Okay. What do you think of I didn't know I loved you till I saw you rock and roll?
The interesting thing to me is I'm not sure if he is implying the act that rock and roll is named after, as typically you don't see music. But oh well, maybe I'm picking a bit. Now this one here is actually pretty fucking cool. The guitar on that guitar tone, again, is pretty cool, man. And we get a badass bass line going on here. It's repetitive as all get out, but old Gary sings his ass off quite a bit on this one. I dig the call and response section. There's not a lot to this, just a groove and rock song. I prefer this one to Rock and Roll Part 1 big time. Best one I've heard to this point, and an original. They should have done more originals to me at this point.
All right, I put amusing. This has a great groove, and I could see people dancing to this. I really like it a lot. Okay, and now for Ain't That a Shame. All right, I like this. It's like dork amateur hour at the carpet store in Needles, California, but hey, I enjoy it, and that's what counts. What do you think?
A Fats Domino cover. Well, nope, it isn't. It's an original. And what I said earlier about doing more originals, yeah, we'll scratch that. This one missed the mark for me. They would have probably been better off covering the Domino version. I'm assuming it's a nod to that song somehow.
It sounded like it.
Yeah, a little bit. We're back in the theme park band world here, and I think most would have walked out at this point. This one was pretty bad to me. Yeah, it sucks. All right, next song.
All right. What do you think of School Days? Ring, ring goes the bell.
Chuck Berry cover, and it actually uses the real title. So credits due where it's due, I suppose. I'm not a massive fan of the backing doo-wop style vocals here. Doesn't seem necessary. The guitar work on it, though, is pretty hot, I must say. So I can overlook those stereotypical backing vocals. It stays above the generic a bit here. It's not epic or anything, but it's better than the last one I heard, for sure.
Okay, I put the only version of this song I like, and I love it. It's fantastic. Best version ever made. Okay.
Whoa. Good. Right on, Gary Glitter.
Yeah. You'll be serving me some Jell-O soon and seeing how I smile to it. Lee likes it. Potato flavored, but he likes it. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right, next song. Rock On. Okay. This is silly, but I could hear it on an amateur dance party television show shown on a local station. It's filler and not great, but I've heard worse. What do you think?
We're back in the original land. The drums, again, pretty badass. And see, now at this point, I figured out what the fucking sound with the guitar is. And it's the guitar and sax in tandem. And that, I think that's pretty cool. And that's what makes that sound. It's pretty much driven by the bass and drums, some hand claps, and more of that buzzsaw guitar and little bursts. Which I must admit, the guitar tone is interesting, but it's that cross with that sax, and sometimes it sounds like a kazoo almost. And if that's I guess that's the effect you get with a sax mixed with the guitar together. This is a stomping type of track, and I can hear the influence on future acts here for sure. This one is actually pretty cool, and Glitter could sing. This style is more needed on the record, so I think it's better than filler.
All right. What do you think of Donna?
We get a cover of Richie Valens' breakthrough ballad. Being I really can't contextualize this album as I wasn't even born when it was out, this one makes me think of Sha-Na-Na, which you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if that's a good thing. Glitter sings it fine. Actually, he sings it pretty damn good, actually. But it does remind me of the aforementioned Sha-Na-Na. So This is far from the worst cover on the record, but it's okay. It's well produced as well. I would have preferred he wrote his own ballad, though.
Okay, I like this. It's like the great grandsons of Fred Waring's Pennsylvanians on this track. Not played great, but amusing, and I am entertained by it. So there it is. But I admit it's a bit longer than it needs to be. Okay, and now for the next one. The famous instigator. Okay. An imitation of Dion, and not up to Dion's standards, but the sense of humor behind it gives it some charm, so I can laugh when I hear it, but it's not one of the better tracks. What do you think?
Allegedly, another original song, which basically seems like a rip-off The Wanderer. I mean, who the hell rips off a song they covered on the same album? At least in the vocal structure, for sure, which is, like I said, it's pretty ballsy to put an original song that is pretty reminiscent of a cover you did on the same record. This one doesn't do anything for me at all. I don't think he was trying to be the Bonzo Doodah band here, but that's what it reminds me of, and you'd be better off listening to them, I propose. Not a good song here. No.
All right.
No.
And what do you think of the clapping song?
This is a Lincoln Chase song, so we're back in the cover land. And this one works. It's fun. And there's nothing wrong with that. The drums, again, are fantastic. Glitter sings his ass off on this one. He had a pretty cool, soulful style voice when he went to. I'm actually surprised McCartney never covered this one. It seems like it'd be up his alley. But perhaps he hasn't because Glitter did. But I digress. I don't know. But, oh well, hey, the clapping song, it works for me. It's just a fun little song.
If this was a group who did an exercise with rock program, and I saw this at 2 o'clock in the morning on a rainy day, I'd dig it. It's good enough for my approval. All right, now for...
Not sweating with the oldies, though. Not that bad. Yeah.
Yeah, not...
Suzanne Summers. Working out to the oldies. That'd be
better. She would be. Yeah. Anyway, now for Shaky Sue. Okay, forget Buddy Holly and Richie Valens. We have Gary Glitter. Well, only maybe. This started great and became sillier, but I can still stomach this because I like some silly stuff and it's not completely bad. What do you think?
See, well, to me, give Glitter credit. He put about an equal amount of original songs on this record to covers. Now, obviously, most of the originals are done in a style to integrate with the covers, and that's a good choice by Mike Meander, I think, in this production. This has a nice feel to it. Glitter sings this damn well again, I think. Damn it, I feel like I need a shower. I'm giving way too much love to this Glitter album. I also hear influence on the punk movement, especially the British punk movement, on this song and the album. Another fun one here, and the good tracks have that in common. They're just fun.
Right on. And what do you think of the last song, Rock and Roll Part 2?
The most famous version, or better known by us in America again. In essence, it's an instrumental version of Part 1. And as mentioned earlier, you couldn't watch a sporting event without hearing this. It was also put in the Joker film. Not the sequel, which I believe I'm the only person on the planet who liked that film. But I digress. Anyway, obviously, it's controversial to like this stuff, and I'm not attempting to be that, but this song has a great stomping beat. More of that buzzsaw guitar mixed with that sax. This is the better version as far as I'm concerned. And as far as the album, I have to call it like I hear it. I've heard worse. That's for sure. The decent moments are there. It is what it shall be, folks. Go ahead, Lee.
All right. First, before I tell you what I think of the song, I will say overall, this is an album that I would hear again for myself. Anyway, the song I grew up with, and I really liked it. I like it better than part one. And I'm wondering how they sound together. I was going to hear them together, and then I got a little sleepy and forgot to do it, but I shall later. I really
Yeah.
do like part two a lot. So there you go.
We survived a Gary Glitter review.
Yeah.
Hey, I know you've heard worse, and I agree.
Yeah.
It's too bad this guy was Gary Glitter.
Yeah.
But there are a couple sha-na-na moments. There are, and I am old enough to remember sha-na-na. I remember the TV show, and I thought it was stupid then, and probably will now to this day. But they were at Woodstock. Can you believe that shit?
Yeah.
Sha-na fucking nah.
I believe it only because I had the film and saw it. But otherwise, I would not have wanted to believe it.
Oh, my goodness. But the only thing I don't really understand is why he went like so old school rock and roll at the time, because this did predate punk. But that's why I say I see, maybe not necessarily completely, because, but I mean, I see influence on British punk here. Not necessarily American punk, but I do hear it. And on the next album, like I said, I didn't say it on here, but off air, but one of my favorite bands had to give up writing credit because they straight up ripped them off. So, again, I hear his influence on Britpop and some other things. Yeah. So, I'm sorry, folks. Gary Glitter influenced a lot more than you want to believe.
Yeah. And I will say, as far as things that are incongruent, like how the hell did this ever happen? There was a song that was, there was a guy named Gordon Sinclair, or David Sinclair, Gordon Sinclair, okay? Have you ever heard of him?
No.
He was like a prime minister of Canada or something. And, or he did something. He was like a politician, and he went on the radio, and he did like this speech which talked about the Canadians, and I forget exactly what he said, but it was like some information, like as if you were going to a tour of Canada and he was the tour guide, it might have been a part of his tour talk. But anyway, for some weird reason, the radio DJ took a snippet of his speech and then put it to some marching song, like it was like Battle Hymn of the Republic or something, and then used like a marching band version of it, and they put his voice over it and sold it as a single, and it sold, and it was on the K-Tel album along with Gary Glitter and Focus and Gladys Knight, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I think they asked Gordon Sinclair what he thought about that, and I think his reaction was maybe kind of like, it
Not
doesn't surprise me the dumb things people do, but hey, if I'm going to get some money from royalties for it, I'm not going to cry about it. Kind of like that, you know? Kind of like, you know, kind of like a guy who wants to give the meter reader a $1,000 tip because he liked the way he looked at the numbers, and the guy's like thinks it's nuts, but he's not gonna say no thank you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of like that.
As I mentioned earlier, it was in Rock and Roll Part 2. It was in the Joker film. And there was a lot of people came out and said, oh, he's going to get royalties. Folks, if you check him out on your Spotify's, Apple, whatever, he does not get paid for royalties. He sold his library off decades ago, so he doesn't get paid any. So you don't have to worry about that if you have that kind of problem.
Yeah.
So, but yes, it's a very controversial man. But overall, I found it to be an enjoyable record.
Yeah.
By a deplorable human being.
Well, thank you for reviewing this with me.
Thanks for doing it. Yeah, thanks for doing it.
Yeah. Hey, I'm okay with it.
Glitter, Mariah Carey, folks.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah. All right.
It was worth listening to, though.
Yeah, it was. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye. Okay.
Cool. Let's step